Welcome to another one of our Royds with E. King Herbs Palsy webinars, this time dealing with all things related to physiotherapy and in association with the Herbs Palsy group. I'm Paul Rumley, lead partner at the Clinical Negligence Department of Royds with E. King and a specialist in handling claims on behalf of people with Herbs Palsy. I'm joined by my colleague, Lucy Norton.
Hi, I'm Lucy Norton. I'm a senior associate at Royds with E. King in the Clinical Negligence Department. I also specialise in Herbs Palsy cases and birth injury, including cerebral palsy as well.
Thank you, Lucy. And doing this webinar in conjunction with the Herbs Palsy Group, which is still the only national charity dedicated to Herbs Palsy. We're also extremely fortunate to be joined by Kim Hawksby, who has been a member of the Herbs Palsy Group since being a child and who takes an active role in the work of the group. Kim regularly speaks at the Herbs Palsy Group's Professionals Conference, which is designed to educate midwives and therapists about the true impact of having Herbs Palsy. Kim has worked as an occupational therapist, specialising in orthopaedics and trauma, paediatrics and elderly care. Both being an occupational therapist and having Herbs Palsy herself, Kim is able to give us both a personal and a professional viewpoint during this webinar. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, thank you. Hope you find this webinar informative and useful.
Thank you, Kim. And we're also very lucky to be joined by Susan Filson, who has been a qualified physiotherapist for over 40 years and has worked extensively with the NHS at some of England's largest hospitals. She was a director of physiotherapy and oversaw both adult and paediatric services, including medical, surgical and neurological injury rehabilitation. As well as currently consulting and treating patients, Susan has been involved in researching the benefits of water therapy, hydrotherapy and swimming, plus the suitability of disabled access to leisure centres and swimming pools in Great Britain. As an expert in her field, we therefore welcome Susan to share her views and knowledge about physiotherapy generally and in relation to Herbs Palsy injuries. Welcome, Susan.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to talk tonight.
You're very welcome, Susan. And most importantly, we have David, whose son has Herbs Palsy and whose claim we are currently progressing, to talk about the challenges that they as a family and their son have and continue to face with Herbs Palsy. To preserve anonymity, we're going to refer to David's son as B or your son throughout. But I can confirm that their son is 13 years old and has a grade 2 brachial plexus injury affecting his left arm. This leaves B with a significant permanent reduction in range of movement, grip strength and function of his left arm and hand. He has not had surgery, but has received physiotherapy and hydrotherapy treatment whilst growing up, and his parents have actively encouraged him to participate in all sorts of sports to maximise his potential. David, thank you very much for joining us this evening and for giving us the parent voice, which is very important in this discussion. So welcome, David.
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation.
Susan, what sports or daily activities would assist from a physiotherapy point of view in terms of gross and fine motor skills?
Any sport, be it, I'm reluctant to say running because you're pounding with an abnormal posture, but it can be done. I like any activity where all 4 limbs are being utilised. So where you're using your arms and your legs, I think that's a very beneficial sport.
Yes, so my question to Dave was, obviously, having talked to you and your son quite a lot, we know you and your wife have been very positive about getting him to try lots of different things, and you do them with him as well. So could you sort of talk a bit about the kind of activities your son does?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I mean, he's very fortunate in the fact that he benefits from things that I did when I was a kid, and obviously as an adult growing up. You know, he's the sport he does of choice, which he's been doing since he was about 5, is karate. He's a second dan black belt in karate. He's been doing it, like I say, since he was 5. His club is very good. They understand he's got a problem, and they compensate for some of the movements that he has trouble doing, but it doesn't stop him, and he is very good at it. Kayaking is again something else that he's picked up from me, because fortunately it's something that I did as a kid and as a young adult. Rock climbing, we do that quite frequently. Cycling, he loved being out on his bike, and they're just some of the main. Oh, and he does clay pigeon shooting as well. So yeah. So he does quite a lot of things, and obviously the thing with the clay pigeon shooting is good because he has to hold the shotgun up for a period of time while he's taking his shots. He does moan after a while that his arm does start to ache, but because he's enjoying it, he just carries on. He perseveres.
Just sort of going back to our thing on bikes and scooters, is my memory right that he was a bit later getting on a bike than
he was? Yeah, he was with the bike. Yeah, and again, it was the problem of holding his arm out for too long a period on the handlebars. It just found that a struggle. And again, it was his balance of being able to sort of stay up straight. It took a while with the stabilizers on. And then once we come off the stabilizers on the bike when he was young, it was the fact that he was drifting to one side and would fall off quite a few times. And then he, like I say, they give them their due. They persevere and they find a way and they adapt. And he's done that very well. He rides a bike very confidently now, but he does still have moments where he complains things. His arm is aching. Through being on the bike for too long. He has to, if we go to one of these dedicated cycle parks, which are good, very safe, but, the fortunate thing is he can stop, start when he needs to. He has to take periodic breaks because of the aching in his arm. So,
do you think it's been good emotionally for him being able to do lots of different sports and sort of be like his friends?
I think it is, and I think we're fortunate with regards to the activities that we do. In a way, he shines a lot with his friends because his friends don't have access to them sort of activities. Some of his friends come with us when we do it, like the kayaking or the climbing. I'll take his friends with us, and I think in a way it puts a very positive thought into him because it's something that he knows his friends don't do, and again, because of being able to do it and over the time we've done it, he's very good at it where they're not. So in a way, he shines through with it, which is very positive in where he's concerned.
And I know Lucy and I have certainly come across with lots of clients the balance issue, which is often overlooked.
Yes.
With cerebral palsy, of course, we're all looking at balance and all of those things. But with Erb's palsy, I think it is overlooked quite a lot, actually.
I would agree. I think one of the things we see with I've seen with children especially, is parents saying, my child can't ride a scooter, they can't ride a bike.
Can't skip.
Yeah, skip. Things that, their friends do, they struggle with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now then, a question for Susan and or Kim. What are the challenges of Erb's palsy sport opportunities, given that Erb's palsy falls between disability and able-bodied sporting opportunities at times?
The Paralympic organisation are actually going through reclassification, as you probably heard with the Paralympics that was on not so long ago. Certain people have been wrongly classified and were in wrong, but there are some classifications for Erbs. They tend to fall in the people with the missing hands or just more minor upper limb injuries than anything else. But one can get involved in that. The only problem with that is actually the competition is very high. And then to get on an able-bodied competitive is just as hard. So yes, they do sometimes tend to fall between two. So it's all very well and saying, oh, yes, you can come on the Paralympics. You're fantastic. Let's get you on. There are then a lot of people all competing for 10 places because it isn't a very big category. So it is, unfortunately, do fall between two areas, but it's getting better with the Paralympics. It really is.
I think kind of locally and at grassroots level, I think palsy is one of those disabilities that often falls, in a gap, really. There's been kind of wheelchair sports for a long time, at quite a local level. And even football now, they've got such a wide variety of different teams. They've got a hard of hearing team and the blind football and the cerebral palsy football and the knee amputee football. And, you're waiting, I'm thinking, can I be in one of the, and I'm like, I'm still not in one of these categories, even though they've tried to be so inclusive. When people could say, well, football, if you've got Erb's palsy, you could just, play an able-bodied team. But again, it's the balance issue. It's doing throw-ins, if you were in the goals, even just things like tackling and using your body to defend. There's lots of things that would be kind of disadvantageous, I don't know if that's, be of a disadvantage, because of the Erb's palsy, that wouldn't necessarily be clear to a lot of people. When I went to uni, I joined very briefly the badminton team, and I can't really hold the shuttlecock in my right hand to drop it when serving. So I used to kind of put it on my racket, do a little kind of hit up first as if it was the serve, and then hit it, and then they said, oh, no, you can't do that because it's not in the rules if you play a game. And I was like, well, I'm not just doing it to be at an advantage, I'm doing it because that's the only way I can do it, but it's almost like, because they're not used to it, they've not had anyone do that before. Oh, it's almost panic stations, like, oh, well, what we're going to do, is it allowed, is it not allowed? At the end of the day, it was just a little bit of fun for me to do. And then it became where I was just like, oh, it's not, not really worth it. And I think sport is very, very good for lots of, obviously, physical and, like you said, kind of mental health and well-being reasons. But I think sometimes if you are in a team where, there's lots of able-bodied people and you are finding things difficult, it can also have a bit of a negative impact when you know that you are different to the others and you're not finding things as easy as the others. And that's why, some people are very against disabled specific kind of groups, when they think it should all be inclusive. But sometimes actually being in a group with other disabled people really does have its advantages, because, you can learn from them, not just, through kind of the sport, but just generally mixing with other disabled people. I was a member of the British Disabled Water Ski Association, kind of from the ages of like 13 to kind of 20-ish, and just mixing, and it being very normalised having a disability, and seeing people just living their lives. And for me to see older people with different disabilities, driving down there, managing, being parents, had such a positive kind of impact on me as well. So I think it is just do your research, when you're looking at what it is, and also don't be afraid to speak to the people who were involved to say, this is what my child's kind of condition is, this is how it might affect them, what's their thoughts of it? Do they seem like they would be very good at including them? And really it's getting something where they can really thrive. And obviously that's kind of what David's son's done. He's really thrived in that environment.
So what we'd like to talk about now is input other than physiotherapy, such as surgery, aids and equipment, or assistive technology that's becoming more used these days, and sort of have a little discussion about that. So obviously Kim has her own expertise in with her occupational therapy hat on, but coming to Susan first of all, are there any aids or equipment that help specifically with the physiotherapy itself that you use or recommend to your clients?
There are new technologies happening every couple of weeks. We have some amazing new electrical input machines, put simply, that can either make muscles work that don't work, so that you can get some movement or strengthen other muscles. And I've just seen today, and I'm trying to see if I've got a picture of it, but I haven't, a glove. Well, there are many gloves, but there's a glove, an electrical glove, that when you put it on, if you can't make a fist, it makes a fist and then it straightens the fingers out again. And it's just a glove, but it's got electrical stimulation in it. So it used to be big, ugly things, but now it's just a very small glove. So that's a new piece of technology that's useful for people to do functionally. If they couldn't sort of grip something with the hand or hold a steering wheel, wearing this glove would allow that to happen. But there is all sorts of new technologies happening all the time, and hopefully we are using them. The other thing that I believe some of the private clinics have got involved in now is video games and hands that are part of that to encourage the arm to be used with a video game. So there's a lot of that sort of technology coming. I don't use it, but there are 3 or 4 clinics around the country that are using that technology too. So yeah.
Now, are there any sort of basic small pieces of equipment, stretch bands or?
Oh yes, yes. Loads of putty stretch bands. I like children to have climbing frames in their gardens, so that for me they can go up the ladder and they can swing and do all those sort of things. But some parents are a little resistant because they think it's going to hurt the child. But those sorts of things are very useful. But just small pieces of equipment as well.
So sort of still on the subject of aids and equipment, David, did you and your wife buy some things for your son? Is there any specific things you bought for physiotherapy or life in general?
No, the only thing we had initially to help him was for the type of exercises we was doing at the time was the giant gym balls. We used to put him on the gym ball face down and roll him, so he had to reach out and grab things in front of him. That was one of the exercises that was given to us through the physiotherapy team when he was young. As he's grown older for his own activities, but we've got things like stretch bands, and I've got they are a hand grip squeezer. So you literally, it's like a giant spring and you squeeze it to tension up, to put the tension through your hand. They're the only things that we've really sort of put in place for him. Again, apart from his own activities he does on a day-to-day basis that helps.
I was just thinking, going back to Susan's point, the children do get to an age where actually doing daily physiotherapy is not the most attractive thing in the world, in my experience with some of my clients. And I just wondered whether any of the technology, they get to the age where they might think, ooh, well, I might try that.
In that respect, being something, if you like, futuristic, he probably would have a go to see if it would make any improvement. I think he would, if sort of putting it that way.
I hope that the people watching will agree that we've covered a very wide range of practical issues. And so we hope it is of real help to people with Erb's palsy and their families. So it remains for me to thank very much Kim Hawksby of the Erb's Palsy Group, Susan Filson, our expert physiotherapist, and David for all of their helpful insights. If you want any further help or input, please go to roydswithyking.com or erbspalsygroup.co.uk. And thank you for watching. So, Kim, what are the benefits of joining the Erb's Palsy Group?
There's many, many benefits of joining the Erb's Palsy Group, but I think the main thing is that everyone involved with the person with the Erb's palsy knows that they're not on their own, so the children see other kids similar to them and get benefits of that. The parents get to speak to other parents, grandparents get to speak to other grandparents. The whole thing of when you are on your own and you've got little information, it's I can only imagine that it feels very, very daunting, and at times you feel like you're the only person that's kind of going through it. And I know even sometimes for me, even now, like I'll put something on the Facebook Erb's Palsy group, this, is this anyone else, you know, and there'll be umpteen people, oh yeah, that happens to me, or I get this, and you think, oh yeah, you know, that's reassuring to know. So that kind of support you get from the others is really important. They have really good resources. So we've said about kind of the physiotherapy and everyday activity resource. There's a really good, if I did contribute to it, so even if I do say so myself, but there's a really good teenage and young adult resource kind of booklet that goes through lots of different information and aids and adaptations. When you get to the tricky years where you start becoming more independent and you need to kind of know, you know, what's out there, you know, kind of aids and adaptations, or just advice or different ways to do it. So that's there. And again, there's lots and lots of different information and resources. And they just start up to date with the best advice that there is. You know, they attend all the international conferences. You know, so the group itself, I forget what they call. They were a committee. What are they now? They're
trustees. Trustees.
Yeah, so the board of trustees are all really knowledgeable about it, and they've all got a connection to it, whether they're a parent or they work in the field. So, you know, to get any kind of best advice and up-to-date advice, they're the ones to go to, really. And they're all very lovely people.
I hope that the people watching will agree that we've covered a very wide range of practical issues. And so we hope it is of real help to people with Erb's palsy and their families. So it remains for me to thank very much Kim Hawksby of the Erb's Palsy Group, Susan Filson, our expert physiotherapist, and David for all of their helpful insights.